Our scripture passage today is from the book of Proverbs, chapter 31, verses 1 through 9. The words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him. No, my son, no, son of my womb, no, son of my vows, do not give your strength to women, your ways to those who destroy kings. It is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, or for rulers to desire strong drink, or else they will drink and forget what has been decreed, and will pervert the rights of all the afflicted. Give strong drink to one who is perishing, and wine to those in bitter distress. Let them drink and forget their poverty, and remember their misery no more. Speak out for those who cannot speak, for the rights of all the destitute. Speak out, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and needy. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. So 1 year ago today, I was in Santiago. I had walked 500 miles across Spain on the Camino de Santiago, and about 15 miles a day was average, and I always had blisters all 500 miles. Just a lot of people got over their blisters. For some reason, my feet never did. And the last 100 kilometers is all that is required to get a certificate of completion. It is traditional that it starts at 500 miles ahead, but it's only required that you walk 100 kilometers. So that last 100 kilometers is really crowded because a lot of people begin there, and that is their whole Camino. And it was about then that all of us that had walked all those miles before, we were in a very different place than those that had just begun. Those that had just begun, they were all excited. Their clothes were all clean. Their boots were clean and shiny. They just were ready to go. And all of us that had walked hundreds of miles before that, we were ragged. Our shoes were coming apart. Things were displaced. We weren't all put together anymore. And it was about at that place that I wrote a top 10 reasons that you know you have been on the Camino too long. And I'd like to share that with you today. I posted it on Facebook at that time on the Camino. It's a little rough, so please forgive me. The first one is every tree is an opportunity. If you don't know what that means, you've never walked in the woods before. Number 2, you can't walk without poles. Every single mile was with hiking poles, and you get so used to it that you simply just cannot walk without them. You're just falling all over. Number 3, cow patties have started to smell like cheese. That is absolutely true. Every small village had tons of cows, and anyway. Number 4, it's a good day if you have paper products. It's a really good day. Number 5, you look forward to pulpo, that's octopus. At first, we were absolutely disgusted. By the end, I loved it. Number 6, you finally face the fact that those mosquito bites might be something else. If you don't know what that is, that's bed bugs. There was always a problem with bed bugs. Number 7, languages are no longer a barrier. You will talk to anyone and absolutely understand one another. It's amazing. Number 8, the rocks on the path look like the shapes from a hallucination. You just had seen rocks for so many miles that they just come alive. Number 9, ibuprofen, Camino candy, goes down best with Spanish red wine. Number 10, you breathe a sigh of relief at the sight of a plastic mattress at the end of the day. Plastic mattresses are good protection against bed bugs. So that was, this was right before I got to Santiago, and these were some of the things I was thinking of at that time. But it was a year ago today that I was in Santiago, and I really attribute that walk to being one of the most amazing things I've ever done in my life. And every city was different, every town was different, every single day was, can you imagine 6 weeks of your life where you remember every single day? Because it was that amazing. But the most amazing thing of all was the people. And by the end of the walk, I realized that it wasn't just that the people were amazing. It's that we were all living in such a way to be open to other people. There was nothing really special or unique about the kind of people that would go on a walk like this. They were all really different and diverse. It's that we were living in such a way to be open to knowing each other, to be in connection and community and reaching out for one another. So the Camino for me was about the people, and I am still in touch with quite a few people from around the world. It's amazing. In fact, 2 nights ago, I had a conversation on Facebook with an Australian friend. They're just starting spring in Australia. We're just starting fall. It's just amazing to have met so many amazing people. So that story will be relevant to the point I'm going to make in just a moment. So this whole month, we're talking about the word wisdom. We're talking about wisdom, and today I'm going to define wisdom as the skills to cope with life. The skills to cope with life. So that's what wisdom is. It has a lot of different definitions, but today that's the one I want to use. The passage that we have is, I don't know, for some of you, was this like the very first time you've ever heard that before? It's really unusual. I've never preached on it before, but I'll tell you what drew me to it. It is wisdom words from a mother. How could I not preach on that? It's so rare to have actual words from a woman in the Bible that are not probably transcribed or written, through a man's perspective. But you kind of get the feeling that these are really a mother's words. Now, if this is to a king, then she would have been a queen. It's not identified as such in the text. But because the passing on of wisdom was a male tradition, then she most certainly had to have been a queen for her to have had that right to pass down wisdom. And so this queen is telling her son, be careful of women. That's the very first one. Be careful of women. Don't drink, because you won't be able to be a king in that role. But she doesn't draw the line on drinking totally, which is very compassionate. I don't know that it's necessarily helpful to those that are drinking, but it still is compassionate. Give strong drink to one who is perishing, and wine to those who are in distress. Let them drink and forget their poverty. That's one of the most compassionate passages in the Bible about the pairing of poverty and alcohol. Remember their misery. May they remember their misery no more. Very, very, that's not a justification for over-drinking, but it is compassionate, and it comes from a queen to a king, wise words. And then lastly, one of my favorite passages for a person in power in the whole Bible. Speak out for those who cannot speak, for the rights of all the destitute. Speak out, judge rightly, defend the rights of the poor and needy. Now that sentence is very consistent with the Hebrew understanding of what a king really should be. A king should always be responsible for the ones in need. And that kind of image informs the New Testament understanding of Jesus. That Jesus is on the side of the one that's in need. And it comes from this, so what is a king supposed to be? And in this mother's advice, a king should be someone that's on the side of the needy. Now, interesting enough, it says this is just another little biblical thing that I meant to say at the beginning. An oracle that his mother taught him. Oracle, we don't always know if we're translating correctly. Oracle could be a location. So it could be Queen Massa. The word is Massa. So it could be her name instead of oracle, which is weird. There's a couple places in the Bible where we don't quite understand if we're translating correctly, but anyway. So it's words of a queen to her son, and they're written in Proverbs for us to peek into the past in a beautiful way. So I've given you two stories. I told you two things. One was about the Camino and the friends I've had, and two is a story in the Bible of a queen who gave instruction to her son. And here's my third story. So this whole summer, I have been wildflower hunting. If you're a friend of me on Facebook, you have seen tons and tons of pictures of wildflowers. It has been an amazing summer because we had so much rain over last winter, and the flowers have been at peak, so many flowers. Anyway, and now that the flowers are over in the mountains, I am just really missing them so much. I would leave from work and go straight up to Mount Ashland or go on some hike, and those long days allowed me so many hikes and so many ways of finding flowers. But I found a flower friend. Do you have a flower friend in your life? If you don't have a flower friend, you need a flower friend. I found a flower friend on Facebook. I found her because she posted something on Oregon wildflowers. And she mentioned that she found it on a trail that was around here. And so I friended her, and then I said, hey, can we go on a hike together? Can you show me that flower? And we became friends in person, not just on Facebook. And so she wanted to go look at autumn leaves. And I told her, I said, we don't have really autumn here. I'm from back south, and we have a big autumn back east. And I have always felt like everything turned brown here, and there was no autumn. Oh, let's go, and I will show you autumn in southern Oregon. I'm like, I've lived here for quite a while already. And so she took me to look for autumn leaves, and my eyes are now open to autumn in a new and wonderful way. We do have autumn. You just have to know where to look for it. By the rivers right now is a great time. By water is a great place right now. It hasn't totally evolved yet, but that's a great place. But she has taught me to see, that our relationship has taught me to see things that I had not seen yet. So that is 3 stories. One about the Camino and the friends I met. 2 is about the queen, instructions to her son. And 3 about how this flower friend has taught me to see the autumn flowers and autumn leaves. The reason I keep mixing it up is because here's the quote I want to tell you. Autumn is a second spring when every leaf is a flower. That's a quote she gave me. to help me get into the autumn mood. So these three stories are all connected to the wisdom I want to share with you today. It's not my wisdom, but it is wisdom that has been, there's evidence now in scientific research. The scientist named Robert Waldinger, he's part of the Harvard Medical Study. If you've ever read about this, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The Harvard Medical Study it's the longest running medical study ever. It's run for 75 years. So 75 years ago, they selected some Harvard students, and they took all kinds of information about them, did all kinds of workups on who they were physically and mentally and relationship-wise and financially, all kinds of stuff about them. And then they've kept up with them for 75 years, those same people for 75 years. And a couple years into it, they thought, whoa, wouldn't it be cool if we compared Harvard people with a much lower class of people? And so they went into the inner cities, and they took an equal number of people and started studying them in comparison. And what they started asking questions like about happiness. What makes happiness? And what they found was, it's often people will answer that happiness will be satisfied if I can have enough money, if I can have enough security, if I can get that job I want, get that promotion I want, get that, if I can be in a relationship, that goal that they've set. But what they actually found is, following these same people for 75 years, the ones that actually registered happy later in life were those who had really good relationships younger in life and maintained those relationships throughout life. Now that is wisdom that is pure gold. That our relationships matter. It's not about, so the Harvard folks, that were more successful, they were not happier because of their success than the ones that were inner city. What really made happiness was the closeness and the number of relationships that people had. That's why I picked a passage about a queen to her son. That's why I thought it was okay for me to talk about the Camino and how wonderful it was to meet amazing people. That's why I'm so excited about my flower friend. Because relationships, the quality of our relationships, the number of relationships that we have, could potentially be an indicator for how long you will actually live. According to their scientific numbers, the quality and the number of your relationships is more important than your cholesterol number. That is wisdom, if I have ever seen it. So you have an assignment today. Go home and call your mother. Go home and call your son, your daughter. Hug your children. Put your phone down and listen to your child. Improve the quality of your relationships. It may add years to your life.